Aries, the P2P network that refused to die. In the graveyard of peer-to-peer networks, where Napster and Kazaa rest in eternal digital slumber, one zombie refused to stay buried. Aries Galaxy, launched in 2002 by Spanish programmer Pablo Soto, became the cockroach of file-sharing networks, surviving legal nuclear winters that obliterated its contemporaries. While the Recording Industry Association of America declared victory over piracy time and again, Aries kept shambling forward, downloading copyrighted content with the persistence of the undead. This is the story of a network that should have died a dozen times over, yet somehow managed to cling to life for 16 years, becoming both a testament to human stubbornness and a case study in how not to run a technology company. Pablo Soto wasn't trying to build the next great piracy empire when he created Aries Galaxy in Madrid. The 22-year-old programmer simply wanted to improve upon the flawed architectures of existing peer-to-peer networks. Unlike Napster's centralized servers or Kazaa's supernode system, Aries employed a true distributed hash table, spreading file location data across thousands of nodes without central coordination. Users could search for and download files directly from other users' computers, with the network automatically routing requests through the most efficient paths. The protocol supported resume capabilities for interrupted downloads, integrated chat functionality, and could handle multiple file types simultaneously. Soto released the first stable version in late 2002, and within months, Aries had attracted over 100,000 active users, primarily in Spain and Latin America, where broadband adoption was accelerating rapidly. The early success of Aries coincided with the music industry's Scorched Earth campaign against file sharing. The Recording Industry Association of America had already mortally wounded Napster with copyright lawsuits, and by 2003 they were targeting individual users with damages claims reaching thousands of dollars per song. Aries initially flew under the radar because its user base remained concentrated in non-English speaking countries, but as word spread about its reliability and speed, American users began migrating from increasingly hostile networks. By 2004, Aries Galaxy boasted over 2 million registered users and was facilitating the transfer of hundreds of terabytes of data monthly. The network's distributed architecture made it nearly impossible to shut down through legal action against a single entity, since removing any individual node barely affected overall functionality. This technical resilience would prove to be both Aries's greatest strength and its eventual curse. As major record labels intensified their legal offensive, other peer-to-peer networks began implementing increasingly desperate survival strategies. LimeWire added content filters and partnered with legitimate music stores. BitTorrent repositioned itself as a legitimate content delivery mechanism. Kazaa sold itself to Skype's parent company and ceased operations entirely. Aries Galaxy, however, doubled down on its original mission, actively promoting itself as an uncensorable alternative to mainstream file-sharing platforms. Soto's company, Pecunia Systems, began selling premium versions of the Aries client that promised faster downloads and priority network access for paying users. This decision to monetize piracy directly put Aries squarely in the crosshairs of content industry lawyers, who could now argue that the network's operators were profiting from copyright infringement rather than merely facilitating it. The legal troubles began in earnest in 2005 when the Motion Picture Association of America filed suit against Aries in federal court, alleging massive copyright infringement and seeking both monetary damages and injunctive relief. Unlike previous cases against file-sharing networks, the MPAA's strategy focused on Aries's commercial nature, arguing that paid premium subscriptions constituted clear evidence of intent to profit from piracy. Soto's legal team mounted a defense based on the precedent set by Sony's Betamax case, arguing that peer-to-peer technology had substantial non-infringing uses and that Aries couldn't be held responsible for how users chose to employ their software. The case dragged on for 3 years, during which time Aries continued operating normally, even expanding into new markets across Europe and Asia. Meanwhile, the network's user base grew to over 5 million active participants, making it one of the largest file-sharing platforms in the world. The 2008 settlement between Aries and the entertainment industry should have been the network's death knell. Under terms negotiated by federal mediators, Pecunia Systems agreed to pay $12 million in damages and implement comprehensive content filtering systems that would prevent the sharing of copyrighted material. The settlement also required Ares to actively cooperate with industry efforts to identify and prosecute individual users engaged in large-scale infringement. Most observers expected these restrictions to kill the network's appeal, as users would simply migrate to less restricted alternatives. Instead, something remarkable happened. Ares users began developing and distributing modified versions of the client software that circumvented the new restrictions. These unofficial clients with names like Ares Enhanced and Ares Turbo stripped out the content filters while retaining full network compatibility. Soto's company found itself in the surreal position of operating a neutered official client while watching millions of users happily employ bootleg versions of their own software. The technical cat-and-mouse game between Ares's official development team and the underground modification community became increasingly bizarre throughout the early 2010s. Each update to the official client included new anti-piracy measures, which would be cracked and removed within days of release. The modified clients often included features superior to the official version, such as improved search algorithms, better download scheduling, and enhanced security measures. Some modification teams began selling their own premium versions, creating a shadow economy around bootlegged peer-to-peer software. Meanwhile, entertainment industry investigators struggled to keep pace with the rapid evolution of the unofficial clients, finding their detection and filtering systems obsoleted faster than they could deploy new countermeasures. By 2012, industry estimates suggested that over 90% of Ares users were employing modified clients that completely ignored copyright restrictions. The rise of legal streaming services like Spotify and Netflix should have provided the final blow to Ares Galaxy's user base, but the network demonstrated remarkable resilience even as legitimate alternatives became more attractive. While music piracy declined dramatically as streaming adoption accelerated, Ares users simply shifted focus to other content types: movies, television shows, software, and increasingly, adult entertainment. The network's international user base also provided insulation against the American-centric focus of major streaming platforms, as users in countries with limited Netflix catalogs or expensive iTunes pricing continued finding value in peer-to-peer sharing. Perhaps most importantly, Ares had developed a loyal core community that valued the network's social features as much as its file-sharing capabilities. Users formed persistent chat groups, shared recommendations, and developed informal reputation systems that created genuine social bonds transcending mere content acquisition. The beginning of the end came not from legal pressure or competitive displacement, but from the network's own technical obsolescence. As internet infrastructure evolved toward mobile-first architectures and cloud-based services, Ares' desktop-centric design began showing its age. The client software required manual port configuration that frustrated users behind modern NAT routers. The search protocol couldn't efficiently handle the massive file libraries that users had accumulated over years of downloading. Most critically, the network's flooding-based discovery mechanism became increasingly inefficient as the user base grew, creating a paradox where success bred poor performance. Younger users, accustomed to the instant gratification of modern apps, found Ares' interface dated and its workflows cumbersome compared to streaming alternatives. By 2015, active user counts had dropped below 1 million for the first time since 2003, and the number continued declining despite desperate attempts to modernize the platform. Pablo Soto's final years with Ares Galaxy read like a tragicomic epilogue to the peer-to-peer era. Having spent over a decade fighting legal battles and watching his creation mutate beyond recognition, Soto attempted to pivot Pecunia Systems toward legitimate technology ventures. The company briefly explored blockchain-based content distribution, mobile app development, and even cryptocurrency mining software, but none of these efforts gained meaningful traction. Meanwhile, Ares continued its zombie-like existence, maintained by automated systems and occasionally updated by a skeleton crew of developers who seemed to have forgotten why they were still working on it. The modified client ecosystem gradually collapsed as key developers moved on to other projects, leaving users stranded with increasingly buggy and insecure software. Several high-profile malware incidents traced back to compromised Ares clients further accelerated the network's decline, as even dedicated users began questioning whether the risks outweighed the benefits. The official end came with characteristic anticlimax in late 2018, when Pecunia Systems simply stopped paying for the domain registration and server hosting that kept Ares's vestigial infrastructure operational. There was no announcement, no final message to the community, no acknowledgement of the network's 16-year run. Users attempting to connect found only timeout errors and blank web pages. A few die-hard enthusiasts attempted to resurrect the network through alternative infrastructure, but without the critical mass of users necessary for effective peer-to-peer operation, these efforts quickly fizzled. Today, Ares Galaxy exists only in digital archaeology, cached web pages, academic papers analyzing its technical architecture, and the increasingly corrupted hard drives of former users who never bothered deleting their download folders. It stands as a monument to the internet's capacity for creative destruction, a reminder that even the most persistent technologies eventually succumb to the inexorable march of progress and the simple human tendency to move on to newer, shinier alternatives.